Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today, we're really getting into a book that, well, it's impacted millions. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
The full title being A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. And it is #1 New York Times bestseller, over 2 million copies sold, so it's definitely struck a chord.
It really has.
Yeah.
And it's not your typical self-help read, is it? It feels quite radical, this path to inner peace he lays out.
It is. And interestingly, the book itself didn't start as some grand, planned-out philosophical work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Tolle mentions it actually grew out of spontaneous answers he gave during seminars, counseling sessions, that kind of thing.
That explains the style then. It feels very direct, almost conversational.
Exactly. It keeps that question and answer format throughout, often moving between, pointing out what he calls human unconsciousness, the stuff that causes suffering, and then talking about this profound transformation that's available, like right now.
And for you, the learner listening in, our mission here is simple. Cut through the layers, get to the core insights, basically give you a shortcut to understanding Tolle's main message.
Yeah, hopefully you'll walk away with some real aha moments, maybe some surprising bits of info, and definitely some practical ideas that could, shift your perspective.
But there's a sort of gentle warning Tolle gives, right? Which feels important to mention up front.
Absolutely. He stresses that this book isn't just for intellectual understanding. It's designed almost to pull you into a different state of consciousness while you're reading it.
Activating something already within you.
That's the idea. Activating a living knowledge he believes we all have. He even says, don't get too hung up on the specific words or comparing his terms to other spiritual teachings.
Words are just stepping stones, pointers.
Precisely. They point to an experience beyond the words. So that's what we'll try to do today, focus on the experience he's pointing towards, rather than just dissecting the language.
Sounds good. Ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so part 1. Tolle identifies the biggest hurdle right away. He calls it the mind, the greatest obstacle.
This is fundamental. His starting point is this really core, maybe even shocking idea for some. You are not your mind.
It sounds simple, but unpack that a bit. What does he mean?
He's saying that constant voice in your head, that internal monologue or dialogue that pretty much everyone has, that's not actually you.
The incessant chatter.
Right.
Yeah.
The stream of involuntary thoughts, most people don't even realize it's involuntary or that they might have the power to, just stop it.
It's like background noise you've just accepted.
Exactly. Or worse, you assume it is you. And Tolle takes it further. He says if you feel you can't choose to stop thinking compulsively, then it's functioning like an addiction.
An addiction to thinking.
Yeah. It gives this false sense of pleasure, maybe, planning, worrying, analyzing. But ultimately, he argues, that pleasure turns into pain. We get hooked on the thoughts that define us, even the painful ones.
Because they give us a sense of self?
Precisely. They create this identity, which Tolle calls the ego. He describes it as a phantom self, built from our past, our conditioning. It's a false self, created by unconsciously identifying with thought.
And it needs thinking to survive.
Absolutely. It's made of mind activity. If the thinking stops, the ego feels like it's dissolving, like it's dying. It needs that constant mental stream.
And this ties into how the ego relates to time, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. The ego basically ignores the present moment. It's always dwelling in the past memory, identity, or projecting into the future anticipation, seeking fulfillment.
That whole one day when X happens, then I'll be happy mindset.
Exactly that. It sees the future as salvation, the place where it will finally be complete. And the present, it just becomes a means to get to that future. It has no real value in itself for the ego.
Gosh, that sounds exhausting. Constantly living in the past or future.
It is. And Tolle says underneath all this, the root fear driving the ego is the fear of annihilation, non-existence.
So stopping thinking feels like dying to the ego.
Yes. And this fear, he suggests, underlies even small things, like needing to be right in an argument.
Being wrong feels like a threat to its existence.
To the ego, yes. It's a kind of symbolic death. He points out this is why people fight wars over beliefs, why relationships crumble over mental positions. It's the ego defending its perceived existence.
That's quite a heavy thought.
It leads him to a pretty stark warning. He sees the dominance of the mind as a stage in evolution, but one we desperately need to move beyond.
Or us.
Or else we risk being destroyed by it. He says the mind has grown into a monster, but he clarifies, thinking itself isn't the problem. It's a tool. The problem is identification with it, the compulsive nature. Consciousness, he says, can exist without thought.
Okay, so the mind, the ego, this addiction to thinking, that's one major piece. But what about our emotions? He introduces another concept, the pain body.
Right, the pain body. This is another really key idea. It's essentially the accumulated residue of past emotional pain that hasn't been fully faced and dissolved.
So every hurt, every trauma leaves something behind.
Yes. And this residue merges with other past pain, creating this negative energy field. Tolle describes it as living within our mind and body. It's not just memory, it's like a semi-autonomous entity.
An energy field. And can be active or inactive.
Exactly. He estimates it might be dormant maybe 90% of the time for many people. But in someone deeply unhappy, it could be active almost constantly.
That triggers it?
Almost anything, potentially. Anything that resonates with an old pain pattern, an innocent comment, a song, a situation. Suddenly you're reacting not to the present, but from that old accumulated pain.
And how does it manifest?
It varies hugely. It can be just, obnoxious, like a constant whining or complaining, or it can be genuinely vicious, destructive, think emotional outbursts, even physical violence.
Wow. Directed outwards or inwards?
Both. Some pain bodies lash out, attacking others. Some attack the host, leading to self-destructive thoughts, patterns that create illness or accidents, even in extreme cases pushing towards suicide.
That's incredibly dark. How does this thing survive?
It wants to survive, like any entity, and it does that by getting you to unconsciously identify with it. It takes you over, essentially, and lives through you.
And it feeds on more pain.
Exactly. Tolle's line is chilling. Pain can only feed on pain. It thrives on anger, drama, hatred, grief, violence, even illness. Anything that resonates with its own negative frequency. Presence and joy are, indigestible to it.
So when it takes over, you actually want more pain, but unconsciously.
That's the really disturbing part. You might become a victim, attracting painful situations, or a perpetrator, inflicting pain, or both. Consciously, you deny wanting pain, of course, but Tolle argues that your thinking and behavior, when driven by the pain body, are geared towards keeping that suffering alive.
Because the pain body needs it to survive.
Right. And its biggest fear, the light of your consciousness, your awareness.
Why?
Because its survival depends entirely on your unconscious identification with it and your fear of facing the pain directly. If you don't bring awareness to it, you're basically doomed to relive it over and over.
But he does offer hope, right? He says it can't stand up to presence.
Absolutely. He calls it an insubstantial phantom that ultimately cannot prevail against the power of your conscious presence, which leads us perfectly into part 2.
The way out presence and disidentification. How do we actually start getting free?
This is where the practical application comes in. Tolle says the single most vital step is learning to free yourself from your mind by watching the thinker.
Watching the thinker, how does that work?
It's incredibly simple, yet profound. Just listen to that voice in your head. Listen impartially. No judgment, no condemnation. Just listen.
And what happens when you do that?
You immediately create a separation. You realize, there's the voice, and here I am listening to it. That awareness isn't another thought.
It comes from somewhere else.
Exactly. From beyond the mind, he says. As you witness the thought, you feel this conscious presence, your deeper self, behind or beneath the thought. And the thought itself starts to lose its power, its grip on you. It subsides because you're no longer feeding it with your identification.
So you're breaking the identification cycle.
Precisely. You're stepping out of the stream. And this state, this no mind, it's crucial to understand it's not being zoned out or in a trance.
No. It sounds a bit like that.
Quite the opposite, Tolle insists. It's a state of heightened alertness, heightened presence. You're actually more awake, more aware when you're connected inwardly like this than when you're lost in thought. He even says it increases the vibrational frequency of the body's energy field.
Okay. And if you go deeper into this no mind state,
you start to experience pure consciousness itself. Your own presence feels so intense, so joyful that thoughts, emotions, even your body and the external world seem less significant, relatively speaking.
it sounds like losing yourself, but also finding something bigger.
That's a great way to put it. He says it's selfless takes you beyond your old idea of me, but what you find is inconceivably greater than that limited self.
So every time you notice your thoughts without getting lost in them, every little gap in the thinking stream strengthens this conscious presence.
Yes. Each gap lets more light in, so to speak. And eventually, he suggests, you might even find yourself smiling at the voice in your head, recognizing its patterns without taking them so seriously. Your sense of self isn't dependent on it anymore.
That feels like real freedom.
It is. And this practice, watching the thinker, leads directly to the heart of his teaching, accessing the power of the now.
The now. This is the core, isn't it?
Absolutely. He states it plainly. End the delusion of time. Time and mind are inseparable. If you're identified with your mind, you're trapped in what he calls psychological time.
Constantly thinking about past and future.
Right. Preoccupied with memory or anticipation, unwilling or unable to truly honor and inhabit the present moment. He calls both the past, where the ego gets identity, and the future, where it seeks salvation, illusions, when we're trapped in them mentally.
And the transformation is immediate.
He claims that the moment you truly get this, grasp the reality of the bliss. Now, there's an instantaneous shift from mind to being, from time to presence.
And things feel different.
Everything feels alive, he says, radiates energy. It's a fundamental shift in perception available right here, right now.
You know, it makes sense when you think about extreme situations, like emergencies or dangerous sports.
Exactly. He points that out too. Life-threatening moments force you entirely into the now. Suddenly there are no problems, no past, no future, just this moment. You're free from the usual burden of your personality.
But his point is, you don't need a crisis to access it.
Precisely. You don't need to climb a mountain or race a car.
Yeah.
You can choose to enter that state right now just by bringing your full attention here.
It's amazing how this simple idea echoes through so many spiritual traditions.
It really does. Tolle highlights examples. Jesus saying, "Take no thought for the morrow," or pointing to the lilies of the field, just being in the now.
And Zen Buddhism.
The whole essence of Zen is about being utterly present. Those famous koans or questions like, not now, when, they're designed specifically to jolt you into the now.
Sufism, too.
Yes. Rumi saying, past and future veil God from our sight, burn up both of them with fire. And Meister Eckhart, the Christian mystic, saying, time is what keeps the light from reaching us. There is no greater obstacle to God than time. It's remarkably consistent.
So it's key to distinguish between practical time and this psychological time.
Yes, what Tolle calls clock time versus psychological time. Clock time is necessary, learning from the past, setting future goals. But you do it while being fully present in the action you're taking now.
Okay.
Psychological time is the trap. It's dwelling on past mistakes, feeling guilt or resentment, making it part of who you think you are. Or it's constantly projecting happiness onto a future achievement so the now becomes just a stressful means to an end.
It loses all its value.
Exactly. And the collective consequences of psychological time, Tolle argues, are devastating. Ideologies, communism, nationalism, rigid religious systems, they all tend to promise a future paradise that justifies present suffering.
He mentions the huge human cost of communism.
Yes. He cites the staggering numbers, potentially 50 million deaths in the 20th century, in pursuit of a future, better world. It's a stark example of how focusing solely on a future goal can create a present hell. We should state clearly, we're just reporting Tolle's view here, not endorsing any political stance ourselves.
Understood.
Yeah.
And personally, this psychological time manifests as always trying to get somewhere else.
Yeah. Always seeking fulfillment in the next thing, in the next place, the next achievement, never being okay here. Tolle calls it a bottomless hole.
So can you actually have a problem if your attention is fully in the now?
Tolle's answer is a clear no. Problems, he says, are mind-made. They require time dwelling on a situation without taking immediate action, and often making the problem part of your identity, your story.
It's the loss of connection to being, to life itself, that creates the pain.
That's his point. And the choice to stop creating this pain by accessing the now is simple but radical. You have to be truly fed up with suffering to make it.
And if you stop creating pain for yourself,
you stop creating it for others. You stop polluting the world with negativity. It's a profound shift.
which leads us nicely into part 3, finding that deeper self. Portals to the deeper self being and the unmanifested.
Right. If you're not your mind, then who or what are you? Where do you find this being?
And he suggests the body is a key entry point.
Yes, the physical body. He calls it accessing the inner body.
Yeah.
It's not about the outer form, but feeling the life energy within the body, that invisible energy field. Sensing that connects you directly to being, letting you know you're more than just the physical shell.
It's a felt sense, not an idea.
Exactly. He uses that analogy of a fish asking about water you can't understand, being intellectually. It's an experience. Subject and object merge. You have to feel it, be it.
This brings up the issue of language again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Words like God or sin.
It does. Tolle acknowledges these words can be loaded, misused, carry baggage. He advises looking past the word to the reality it points to, like tasting honey versus just talking about it.
So if sin carries too much guilt, maybe unconsciousness or insanity works better.
That's his suggestion. Find the pointer that works for you that helps you see the truth without getting stuck on the word itself.
And this connects to how the body has been viewed historically in some traditions.
Yeah, he touches on that, how after this perceived fall into illusion, the physical body was often seen as problematic, even sinful, leading to shame, taboos, especially around sexuality, and attempts to deny or punish the body.
Asceticism, mortification of the flesh.
Right. Religions often emphasized, you are not your body. But Tolle flips this.
How so?
He insists enlightenment isn't about denying the body or escaping it, like in some out-of-body experience. He's adamant. Transformation is through the body, not away from it. The body is the gateway.
Okay, but what if focusing on the inner body brings up discomfort, like anxiety or nausea?
Tolle says that's usually residual motion, part of the pain body surfacing now that you're bringing attention inward. The key is attention just observing and accepting it without getting caught in thinking about it.
Attention transforms it.
Like a beam of light, he says. Full, allowing attention transmutes that dense energy. Emotions normally pass quickly if you're present. They only linger as a pain body when you're dissociated from your body.
And forgiveness plays a role here too.
A huge role. Holding on to grievances, blame, resentment, self-pity feeds those negative emotions. Non-forgiveness, which is basically resisting what is, blocks access to the inner body because the mind is stuck in resistance. Forgiveness releases that resistance.
So presence is reclaiming awareness from the mind.
And the inner body is the link to the unmanifested, the formless source. In its deepest essence, the inner body is the unmanifested. Awareness of it is consciousness returning to its origin.
He makes that fascinating claim about slowing down aging.
He does, suggesting that being present in the body makes its structure less dense, and identifying with the timeless inner body reduces the accumulation of psychological time, which he believes impairs cell renewal. Quite a radical idea.
Definitely. What about other portals to this unmanifested reality?
He mentions several. Qi, the life energy. He clarifies qi isn't the source itself, but the bridge to the source. It's the movement. The source is the stillness behind it. Going deep into the inner body traces qi back to that stillness.
Okay.
Dreamless sleep. We all dip into the unmanifested every night, unconsciously, drawing energy. We can't consciously imagine it because it has no content, no form.
Right. Makes sense.
Then there's silence. Listening to outer silence, the gaps between sounds, creates inner stillness. Silence without, stillness within. He says it's a very easy, direct way to become present. Only inner stillness can perceive outer silence.
And space is similar.
Very similar, like an externalization of inner space, inner stillness, becoming aware of the empty space around objects, not just the objects themselves, paying attention to nothing.
It shifts your focus immediately.
It does. And he connects this to Einstein's space-time. Inner space is no mind, inner time is presence, the now. Realizing these within makes the outer world less binding. The world's purpose, he suggests, is ultimately its own transcendence through us. It's how the unmanifested knows itself.
Wow. And the final portal.
The final involuntary one, conscious death. At the moment of physical death, this portal opens. The Tibetan Book of the Dead calls it the luminous splendor of the colorless light of emptiness, your own true self.
But most people miss it.
Due to resistance, fear, attachment. Conscious death, however, means realizing there is no death, only the end of the ego. A liberation.
Powerful concepts. So how does all this translate into our interactions? Part 4, enlightened relationships and the new world.
This is where it gets very practical again. How does presence change how we relate to each other?
Most relationships are just minds interacting.
That's his assessment, not beings truly connecting, which leads to conflict. But being in touch with the inner body creates this clear space of no mind where real relationship can happen.
And he's quite critical of conventional love, isn't he?
Very, especially romantic love. We seek it intensely, he says, hoping it will end our fear, our feeling of lack. Sexual union gives a glimpse of oneness, but if your love has an opposite hate, attack, jealousy, then it's not true love. It's an ego need being temporarily met by someone else. When they inevitably fail to meet those needs, the old pain surfaces, gets projected, and attacks begin. True love arises from being, beyond the mind's polarities.
So relationships aren't meant to make us happy, but conscious.
That's the radical reframe. See your relationship as a sadhana, a spiritual practice. Its purpose is to wake you up.
How does that work in practice when your partner is being unconscious?
The key is to relinquish judgment. Don't react from your own unconsciousness. Recognize their dysfunction, yes, but without adding your reaction to it. Be the knowing, not the reaction.
Create a space of presence.
Exactly, a loving presence. He says this is incredibly transformative. Your partner can't easily remain unconscious in that space.
He also makes that interesting point about women potentially being closer to enlightenment.
Generally speaking, yes. He suggests women often find it easier to feel, to be in their body, closer to being. He connects this to ancient symbolism, the Tao, as mother, the formless, often represented by the feminine. Mind energy seen as more male, resisting, controlling, being energy as more female, yielding, allowing.
And this relates to the collective female pain body.
Yes. The accumulated historical suffering of women. He suggests this collective pain often surfaces during menstruation, presenting a powerful opportunity.
An opportunity. How?
By staying present with that pain, accepting it fully without identifying with it, it can be transmuted into consciousness, a path to enlightenment through facing collective pain.
That's profound. And his take on the relationship with yourself.
He points out the split in I can't live with myself, the I and the myself. Enlightenment heals that split. You are just yourself. Whole, no need to protect a separate self. When you give up relating to yourself, all other relationships become love relationships, free from ego.
And he mentions being gay as a potential catalyst.
Right. Feeling different or uncertain about sexuality can force you to question socially conditioned patterns, raising consciousness. It can push you out of the mainstream unconsciousness.
But there's a potential trap there, too.
Yes. If you then build a new identity solely around being gay, you just swap one set of egoic roles and potential unhappiness for another. The goal is always freedom from identification itself.
It always comes back to that, which leads to going beyond happiness and unhappiness, finding peace.
Exactly. Moving beyond the mind's labels of good and bad. From a higher perspective, things just are. Accepting what is fully opens the door to a deeper good that transcends our limited view.
And this ends the drama.
Personal drama, yes. Most of what we call bad is ego-created drama. Arguments need identification and resistance. A conscious person doesn't provide that. Even internal drama, self-pity, anxiety stems from not honoring the now.
This ties into accepting impermanence, too. The cycles.
Absolutely. Life has cycles. Success, failure, growth, dissolution. Suffering comes from clinging to the up cycle and resisting the down cycle. But Tolle says the down cycle is crucial for spiritual growth. Failure can hide deep success. Illness might be the body forcing a needed surrender.
So happiness based on conditions isn't the goal.
No, because it's temporary and tied to unhappiness. True joy is uncaused, arising from within the joy of being. That's our natural state, not something to chase externally. Consumerism thrives on making us forget this.
And negativity, it doesn't actually work.
The ego thinks it does, that complaining or fighting gets results. But Tolle argues negativity actually blocks good things and keeps bad situations stuck. Its only real function is strengthening the ego.
So how do we transform suffering then?
By accepting it, facing deep pain, allowing it to be, bringing attention to it, this, he says, is like entering death consciously.
Dying to the ego's resistance.
Yes. And when you pass through that, you realize there is no death, only the end of the false self, which is liberation.
Which brings us to the final part, the meaning of surrender.
Crucial concept. And it's not resignation. Surrender is purely internal. It's accepting the isness of this moment right now without mental labels or resistance. You can still take action. If you're stuck in mud, you accept, I am stuck in mud right now. Then you take action to get out, but without inner battle.
So action from surrender is different.
Totally different. It's infused with being, joyful, effective, surrendered action, he calls it. A whole new way of working and living.
He uses that flashlight analogy.
Right. Your life situation, past, future, is the thick fog.
Yeah.
Your conscious presence is the flashlight,
Right.
cutting through, creating a clear space right here, the now.
And non-surrender keeps the ego strong.
Hardens its shell, yeah.
Yeah.
Creates separation, makes the world seem hostile, leads to judgment, competition, paranoia.
But surrender connects you to
Your eternal self, your being, that part of you untouched by circumstances, existing only in the timeless present. That's the one thing needed.
So if life feels unbearable, surrender is the first step.
It's the only way, he argues, to break the unconscious resistance pattern that's actually perpetuating the unbearable situation. You change internally first.
And the practice is,
Focus on this single instant. Separate it from the whole story. Surrender to what is right now. Then ask, can I do anything now? If yes, do that one thing. If no, use this moment to deepen into surrender, into being.
Disconnect to a different kind of energy.
Yes, the energy of surrender connects you to being energy, a much higher frequency than the mind energy running our current world. Spiritual energy creates no suffering, isn't bound by opposites, it's transformative.
This applies even to illness, transforming it into enlightenment.
Yes, illness exists in time, past diagnosis, future worries, but by focusing on the instant, letting go of the mental label illness, you reduce it to physical sensations right now, pain, weakness, etc.
And you can surrender to those sensations.
Exactly. That is using the suffering for enlightenment. It transforms you. And then your experience of the illness transforms as a reflection.
So you become an alchemist.
That's the invitation. Transmute suffering into consciousness, disaster into enlightenment. If you're angry about being ill, it means illness has become part of your identity and you're resisting.
What about major disasters, limit situations?
He says for many, only something truly drastic disaster, deep loss, facing death can crack the ego shell and force surrender into awakening. The old world collapses. A new one emerges.
So even in extreme suffering, there's potential.
Immense potential. Intense pain can force acceptance of the unacceptable, leading to spontaneous surrender and redemption, a release from the past.
So when disaster strikes...
No, you are one step away from alchemy. That one step is surrender.
And living in this surrendered state is living in grace.
Yes, saying yes to what is each moment or accepting what isn't, doing what's needed from that place. No more negativity, no more suffering created internally. It's non-resistance, grace, lightness.
If you can't surrender...
You create pain. It's always the resistance, not the situation itself. Full attention acceptance. Surrender activates the power of the now, presence. That removes time. And without time, suffering can't survive.
Wow. Okay, bringing this all together as we wrap up, this deep dive really shows that salvation, peace, fullness of life, it's not out there in the future.
It's right here. It's about being who you truly are, feeling that uncaused joy of being. It's your natural state.
So the invitation is to give up waiting.
Yes. Stop waiting as a state of mind. When you catch yourself waiting for something to make you happy, snap out of it. Come into the present. Just be. Enjoy being. The false self lives on time. It wants you to keep waiting.
And remember the two purposes of life.
Outer purpose goals, achievements, the world stuff. And inner purpose deepening your being in the now. The outer is a game, enjoyable maybe, but inner purpose is primary. It's the quality of your consciousness right now.
And when you connect with being,
you become invulnerable in a sense. True compassion arises. Drama ceases. You become a light of the world, emanating pure consciousness, helping to end suffering just by being present.
This has been incredibly rich. So much to think about, or rather to be with. As we finish, that provocative thought Tolle leaves us with.
Right. He states humanity is under huge pressure to evolve. Our current world, full of fear and suffering, reflects the egoic mind. A profound shift, a quantum leap in consciousness is needed.
And the stark warning, if we don't free ourselves from our mind in time, we'll be destroyed by it.
So the question for you, the listener, is, what does it mean for you to be part of this awakening? How does your personal journey into presence contribute to this larger transformation?
A powerful question indeed, something to really sit with.
Definitely. What insight resonated most with you today? Maybe hold on to that as you go.
Until next time, everyone, keep diving deep.